Atlanta, Georgia, was bustling on that summer day, with the sun shining brightly over the busy streets. Jamal, a 16-year-old teenager, was on his way home after a tiring day at school. He often passed by the local supermarket where his mother worked, helping her out during busy times. It was one of his usual routes, but today, something unexpected was about to happen. As he walked down the sidewalk, Jamal noticed an elderly man struggling to carry a heavy box. The man was sitting in a wheelchair, his face contorted with effort and frustration. The box was clearly too much for him, and sweat was dripping down his forehead. Jamal hesitated for a moment, watching the scene unfold. He knew he couldn't just walk by. He approached the man, concern etched on his face. "Hey, sir, can I help with that?" Jamal asked, his voice filled with genuine interest. The man looked up at Jamal with a surprised expression. "Oh, you don't have to trouble yourself, young man. I can manage." Jamal smiled warmly. "I insist. It doesn't look easy for you." The man seemed to hesitate, but then nodded. "Well, if you don't mind, the box is a bit heavy for me." Jamal took the box, which was filled with office supplies, and helped the man move it to the storage area of his wheelchair. As he adjusted the box, he started a conversation to ease the tension of the moment. "My name's Jamal. What's yours?" "Robert," the man replied with a tired smile. "Robert Taylor." "Nice to meet you, Robert. What were you trying to do with such a heavy box?" Robert took a deep breath, appearing relieved by the help. "I was trying to get this to my home. I live alone now, and well, things aren't as easy as they used to be." Jamal helped Robert position the box on the seat of his wheelchair, making sure it was well balanced. "I understand. My mom always teaches me to help others when I can. Where do you live?" Robert gave a faint smile, grateful for the assistance. "I live nearby, on Oak Street. It's not too far from here, but carrying this box. If you need more help getting it to your home, I can walk with you," Jamal offered, wanting to be of service. Robert hesitated for a moment, giving Jamal an assessing look. "You really don't have to do that, young man. It's just a box." Jamal shook his head, determined. "Don't worry about it. Let's go." With a sigh of relief, Robert smiled and began maneuvering his wheelchair down the sidewalk, with Jamal by his side. As they walked, Jamal decided to make the conversation more enjoyable. "So, Robert, what did you do? Or what did you do, if you don't mind sharing?" Robert laughed softly, a sound filled with nostalgia. "I was a war veteran. I served in the Iraq War. After the accident, I tried to adapt to life here. It's been quite a journey." Jamal looked at Robert with admiration and a touch of curiosity. "Wow, that's incredible. It must have been quite an experience. And how are you handling everything now?" Robert paused before answering. "The truth is, some days are harder than others. But I have my ways of dealing with it. What helps me are the little things, like taking care of my garden and having conversations like this one." "That sounds great," Jamal commented. "I like helping my mom with things, and sometimes I do small jobs in the community." Robert looked at Jamal with a thoughtful expression. "You have a good heart, Jamal. It's not every day someone stops to help a stranger." Jamal smiled shyly, feeling flattered by the compliment. "Well, I've always learned that we should look out for each other. And it seemed like you could use a helping hand today." The conversation flowed as they approached Robert's house. The house was modest but well-maintained. Jamal helped Robert carry the box inside and set it in a corner of the living room. "Thank you, Jamal. That was really kind of you," Robert said, looking at the young man with gratitude. "Don't mention it," Jamal replied with a slight smile. "If you need more help in the future, just let me know. I live nearby and am around here often." Robert smiled, a genuine and warm smile. "I'll remember that. I really appreciate your help today." Jamal waved goodbye and left, feeling good about having helped someone and eager to get to know Robert better. What started as a simple act of kindness was about to turn into something much more meaningful. And so, on that sunny day in Atlanta, an unexpected meeting laid the groundwork for a friendship that would change both their lives. In the days following their sidewalk encounter, Jamal continued to visit Robert regularly. Their friendship, which began with a simple act of kindness, started to grow and deepen. One Thursday afternoon, after school, Jamal decided to stop by Robert's house again. The soft evening light filtered through the living room curtains, creating a cozy atmosphere. Robert was sitting in his wheelchair, organizing some papers and reports that had arrived by mail. When he heard a knock on the door, he looked up and smiled as he saw Jamal walking in. "Hi, Robert." Jamal greeted enthusiastically, holding a small box of donuts. "I brought a little treat to brighten up the afternoon." "Oh, how wonderful," Robert replied with a genuine smile. "I was just starting to crave something sweet. Come on in." Jamal settled into one of the chairs around the table. "I was thinking about how nice it was to help you that day. You mentioned your time in Iraq. Can I hear more about that?" Robert took a donut and took a bite, looking relaxed and happy. "Sure, Jamal. Actually, talking about it does me good. I served as a combat engineer. Most of my work involved disabling explosives and helping to build fortifications. It's a part of my life I'll never forget." Jamal listened intently, his eyes fixed on Robert. "That must have been really intense. How was it coming back home after everything?" Robert sighed, his expression turning more serious. "It was a challenge. The accident that left me paralyzed happened while I was helping a team remove an activated landmine. One of my colleagues was severely injured, and I was the only survivor. After that, everything changed. Adjusting to life here was much harder than I'd imagined." Jamal furrowed his brow, thoughtful. "It must have been really tough to deal with that. How did you find a way to move forward?" Robert looked out the window, reflecting. "I went through a long adjustment period. I got psychological help and, eventually, I started finding purpose in small things. Taking care of my garden, helping out in the community, and now, having conversations like this one have helped me find meaning in life again." Jamal nodded, admiring Robert's strength. "That's inspiring. I can't imagine what you went through, but I'm impressed by how you've found ways to cope." Robert smiled, touched by Jamal's comment. "And I'm impressed with you, Jamal. At 16, you already show a maturity and spirit of solidarity that many adults should emulate. That kind of attitude makes a difference in the world." Jamal blushed slightly at the praise, fiddling with one of the donuts. "I learned from my mom to always help others when I can. She always says that life is better when we take care of each other." The conversation continued to flow naturally, with Jamal and Robert discussing various topics, from personal interests to future dreams. Robert shared funny stories from his days in the military, and Jamal talked about his passion for sports and his ambition to make a meaningful impact in life. As the sun began to set, Robert glanced at the clock and smiled. "Jamal, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Good company is always welcome." "Same here, Robert," Jamal replied, standing up to say goodbye. "I really appreciate these conversations. They help me see the world differently." Robert extended his hand for a firm handshake. "If you need anything, or just want to talk again, feel free to come by. This place is always open to you." "Sounds good," Jamal said with a smile. "See you next time, Robert." As Jamal left and headed home, he felt renewed by the conversation. The time spent with Robert was broadening his horizons and making him reflect on the impact he could have on others. In return, Robert found comfort and joy in the unexpected and genuine friendship that was forming. That afternoon marked another step in their journey, and the bonds being forged promised to transform their lives in profound and unexpected ways. The friendship between Jamal and Robert continued to blossom, and their visits became a regular part of both their routines. With each visit, they learned more about each other's passions and lives, deepening their connection. On a Saturday afternoon, Jamal decided to bring a gardening project to Robert, who always mentioned his interest in horticulture. When Jamal arrived at Robert's house, he found him in the garden, trying to organize some plants. The surrounding area was filled with well-tended flowers and shrubs, a true testament to Robert's dedication to his hobby. "Hi, Robert," Jamal called out as he approached. "Looks like you're busy out here." Robert looked up from the garden, a smile spreading across his face. "Hi, Jamal. Yes, I'm trying to get things sorted out. What brings you by today?" "I brought some seeds and tools to help with the garden," Jamal replied, pulling a small toolbox and seed packets from his backpack. "I thought we could spend the afternoon planting together. What do you think?" Robert looked at the box with a twinkle in his eye. "That's exactly what I needed. I love planting and watching things grow." Let's get started. They moved to an open area of the garden, where Robert showed Jamal the best spots for planting. As they worked, the conversation flowed naturally. So, Jamal, Robert started, digging a hole in the soil. What are your plans for the future? You mentioned wanting to help others. Have you thought about how you're going to do that? Jamal thought for a moment before answering. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that. I'd like to work in something that allows me to help the community, maybe in social work. I've always felt motivated to make a difference, especially after hearing your stories. Robert smiled, clearly pleased with the response. That's admirable, Jamal. The world needs more people with that kind of determination. By the way, how are things going at school? Still dealing with those issues with your classmates? Jamal made a slightly frustrated expression. Yeah, there are still some problems. There's one guy who doesn't seem to like me much, and it's been tough. But I'm trying not to let it affect me too much. Robert carefully picked up one of the plants and looked at Jamal. Remember, life is full of challenges and people who will try to bring you down. What matters is how you respond to it. Keeping your integrity and continuing to do good is what really counts. Jamal looked at Robert, reflecting on his words. You're right. Sometimes it's hard, but I want to be a better person, no matter what happens. Robert began planting the seeds with a smile. Exactly. And remember, every challenge is an opportunity to grow. If you keep doing what's right, people will notice and respect you for it. As they worked in the garden, Jamal began to feel more relaxed and excited about the project. He realized he was connecting with Robert in a way he had never experienced before. There was something deeply rewarding about working side by side, sharing experiences, and learning from an older friend. Robert, have you ever thought about teaching others about gardening? Jamal asked as he finished planting a row of seeds. Robert looked at him, intrigued. Actually, I have been thinking about it. Gardening can be a wonderful form of therapy and also a way to connect people with nature. I'd like to offer workshops someday. That would be amazing, Jamal exclaimed. I'd love to help with that, if you need it. It sounds like a fantastic way to share your passion and make a difference. Robert smiled widely, touched by the offer. I'll definitely consider it. It would be great to have you involved. And I appreciate your help today. Your enthusiasm and energy are contagious. Jamal smiled, pleased with the productive day. I should be the one thanking you. I've learned so much from you. And don't worry, I'll be here whenever you need help with the garden or anything else. When they finished planting the seeds, Robert and Jamal sat on the porch to rest and enjoy the work they had done. The sky was tinged with orange and pink, and the atmosphere was peaceful and cozy. You know, Robert began, looking at the newly planted garden. I think we're building something beautiful here, not just in the garden, but in our friendship as well. Jamal looked at Robert with a smile, agreeing. Yeah, I think so too. And I can't wait to see how everything will grow. As the sun set over Atlanta, the two friends sat together, feeling grateful for each other's company and the bond they were building. Gardening wasn't just a hobby for Robert, but a way to connect with someone and create something lasting, and Jamal felt privileged to be a part of that journey. The friendship between Jamal and Robert continued to strengthen with each passing day. However, Jamal began to face new challenges at school, which started to affect his spirits. The situation involving a classmate, Marcus, was becoming increasingly difficult. Marcus seemed to have a personal issue with Jamal, and the teasing and insults had become frequent. One day, after one of these altercations, Jamal decided to seek Robert out for advice and to vent his frustrations. When he arrived at Robert's house, he found him relaxing on the porch, working on some gardening sketches. The tension and frustration were evident on Jamal's face. Hi, Robert, Jamal greeted, trying to hide his concern. Robert looked up from his sketches, noticing Jamal's troubled expression. Hi, Jamal. You look like you've got a lot on your shoulders today. What happened? Jamal sighed, sitting down in the chair next to Robert. It's Marcus. Things are getting worse. He won't stop teasing me and making unpleasant comments at school. I've tried to ignore it, but it's starting to get to me. Robert looked at Jamal with an understanding expression. I get it. Sometimes people act negatively because they're dealing with their own insecurities or problems. But that doesn't make it any easier for you. Jamal nodded. Yeah, I know, but it's hard not to let it get to me sometimes. I just want it to stop. Robert thought for a moment before offering advice based on his own experiences. Remember what I told you about challenges? They're inevitable, but how you handle them defines who you are. The key is to stay calm and find a healthy way to deal with the situation. Jamal looked at Robert, pondering his words. But how do I do that? I've tried everything, and it seems like nothing changes. Robert paused, choosing his words carefully. Sometimes the best approach is to face the problem with dignity. Try talking to Marcus in an open and honest way. He might not realize the impact his words are having on you. If that doesn't work, seek support from an adult, like a counselor or teacher. Talk to him? I'm not sure that will help, Jamal said, skeptical. He seems so closed off and hostile. It's worth a try, Robert replied. And even if it doesn't resolve the situation immediately, at least you'll have done your part and acted with integrity. Plus, having someone's support can help strengthen your position. Jamal nodded slowly, taking in Robert's advice. You're right. I'll try talking to him. If nothing changes, I'll talk to a counselor. Thanks for listening and helping me think of a solution. That's what I'm here for, Robert said, giving Jamal a friendly pat on the shoulder. Remember that you have the strength to get through this. And if you need more advice or just someone to talk to, I'm always here. Thanks, Robert, Jamal replied, feeling a bit more upbeat. I'll do what you suggested. The next morning, Jamal gathered his courage and decided to talk to Marcus. During lunch break, he approached Marcus, who was talking with some friends in a secluded part of the schoolyard. Marcus, can I talk to you for a minute? Jamal asked, trying to keep his tone calm. Marcus looked at him with disdain. What do you want, Jamal? Jamal took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I just wanted to let you know that the things you're saying and doing are affecting me. I'd like you to stop. If you have a problem with me, we can talk about it. Marcus paused, surprised by Jamal's direct approach. I didn't realize I was affecting you so much. Maybe I went overboard a bit. I'll try to change. Jamal nodded, relieved by the response. Thanks. I just wanted to resolve this in a civil way. After the conversation with Marcus, Jamal felt relieved but also a bit unsure if the change would be real. However, he knew he had done his part. When he saw Robert later that week, he told him about the conversation with Marcus and the positive impact it had. I talked to Marcus, and he seemed to understand what I was saying, Jamal reported. I'm still not sure if things will change completely, but at least he listened. Robert smiled, satisfied. That's a big step. Sometimes, the willingness to face a problem maturely can inspire change. Keep being firm and maintaining your dignity. Jamal smiled, grateful for the support. I'll keep trying. Thanks for all the help and advice. It means a lot to me. Robert extended his hand for a firm handshake. And I'll be here to support you every step of the way. Sometimes life tests us, but how we handle challenges defines who we are. As the week went on, Jamal felt more empowered and confident. He had faced a difficult challenge with dignity and received unwavering support from a friend. The journey wasn't over, but each step toward overcoming obstacles brought a sense of accomplishment and hope for the future. The friendship between Jamal and Robert continued to grow, strengthened by the challenges they faced and the victories they achieved together. With each challenge overcome, they grew closer, building a solid foundation of respect and camaraderie. Spring's arrival brought a new energy to Atlanta. Gardens began to bloom, and trees gained new leaves, signaling the start of a vibrant season. Jamal and Robert continued to meet regularly, and their shared conversations and activities were starting to leave a significant mark on both their lives. On a sunny Saturday, Jamal decided to surprise Robert with a new idea. After visiting some garden supply stores, he had bought a series of small seedlings and gardening tools. Arriving at Robert's house, he was full of enthusiasm. Hey, Robert, Jamal greeted with a big smile as he entered the house. Today, I've brought some new things for the garden. Robert looked up, visibly curious. Hi, Jamal. What did you bring this time? Jamal opened the box to reveal the seedlings and tools. I got some new seedlings for the garden. I thought it would be fun to plant some new things and also learn a bit more about gardening with you. Robert's eyes lit up with interest as he looked at the seedlings. Great. The garden could always use a bit more life. Let's see what we have here. The two of them started working together, planting the new seedlings and discussing how to care for them. As they worked, their conversation naturally shifted to other topics. Robert, have you ever thought about how gardening can impact people's lives beyond just the garden? Jamal asked, while digging holes for the new plants. Robert raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What do you mean? Jamal paused, thinking. Well, I was thinking about how gardening can be a form of therapy and a way to connect people with nature. It's a way to relieve stress and create a peaceful space. Robert smiled, impressed by Jamal's reflection. You make a good point. Gardening can indeed be therapeutic. It's a way to connect with something greater than ourselves and see the results of our work grow. Jamal nodded. I'd love to see more people benefiting from it, maybe even as a form of support for those going through tough times. Robert considered this. That's something I've thought about too. Maybe it's a good idea to explore ways to use gardening to help others. We could start something small and see where it leads. The idea of creating something with a positive impact on the community excited Jamal. That would be amazing. We could start with small events or workshops in the garden. Helping others find a way to relax and connect with nature would be wonderful. Robert grinned widely, clearly excited about the prospect. I like the idea. Let's plan something. We can use the garden to bring people together and share what we've learned. It could be a great project for both of us. As they continued planting, the idea of creating a community project took shape. Jamal and Robert began discussing details about how they could organize events, promote gardening as a form of therapy, and even seek support from local organizations. Do you think we can get support from any organizations, or maybe even schools? Jamal asked. Robert pondered for a moment. Definitely. We can reach out to schools and community centers. Often, institutions are interested in promoting activities that benefit the community. Let's put together a plan and start looking for partnerships. Jamal smiled, feeling inspired and motivated. I'm really excited about this. Gardening can make a big difference, and having a project that helps others is something I really want to do. Robert smiled back, pleased with Jamal's enthusiasm. I'm excited too. It's amazing how a simple hobby can turn into something that impacts people's lives. And having you on board to help make this happen is a huge plus. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in golden and pink hues, Jamal and Robert sat on the porch, enjoying the work they had done in the garden. The new seedlings were planted, and the garden looked even more vibrant. Thanks for helping me with this, Jamal, Robert said, looking at the garden. It's great to see the positive impact we can have when we work together and think about ways to help others. I'm the one who should thank you, Robert, Jamal replied. This project is giving me a new perspective on what I can do to help the community. I can't wait to get started. As the day came to a close, Jamal and Robert felt satisfied with their progress in the direction they were heading. Their friendship was becoming increasingly meaningful, and the community project they were planning promised to be a testament to the power of collaboration and the passion for making a difference. The future was shaping up to be inspiring and full of possibilities, and both were eager to see how their efforts could transform lives and enrich the community around them. With the community project idea in mind, Jamal and Robert began preparing for their first meeting. They decided the best approach would be to organize an event in Robert's garden to bring interested people together and discuss the importance of gardening as a form of therapy and well-being. In the week leading up to the event, Jamal and Robert met several times to plan all the details. They created flyers, prepared a simple presentation, and reached out to local organizations to promote the meeting. The excitement was in the air, and both were eager to see how the community would respond to their idea. Finally, the big day arrived. Robert's garden was decorated with colorful ribbons and small informational signs about the benefits of gardening. The afternoon breeze carried the scent of newly planted flowers, and the atmosphere was filled with anticipation. As the first guests began to arrive, Jamal stood at the gate, greeting them with a warm smile. Among the visitors were community members, some local teachers, and even a few students interested in learning more about gardening. Robert, sitting in his wheelchair near the presentation table, was chatting with a group of attendees. He waved to Jamal as he saw him approaching. Jamal, it looks like people are starting to show up. Everything is going well so far, Robert said, visibly excited. Jamal looked around, pleased with the turnout. Yes, it's going great. I hope everyone enjoys what we've planned. As the meeting began, Robert addressed the group of attendees who were settling into chairs around the presentation table. Jamal positioned himself next to him, ready to assist and answer questions. Good morning, everyone, Robert started, his voice full of enthusiasm. Thank you for coming. Today, we want to share our passion for gardening and how we believe it can be a powerful tool for improving well-being and connecting people with nature. Jamal nodded, adding, we'll talk about how gardening can help relieve stress, promote a sense of accomplishment, and even strengthen community bonds. We're very excited about the possibility of making this an ongoing initiative. One of the attendees, a teacher named Ms. Davis, raised her hand and asked, this sounds like a wonderful idea. How do you plan to organize these gardening events, and who can participate? Robert smiled and answered, we plan to hold monthly workshops here in the garden, where we'll teach basic gardening techniques and also discuss how gardening can be used as a form of therapy. The idea is that anyone in the community can join and learn, regardless of their previous experience. Jamal continued, additionally, we'd like to collaborate with schools and community organizations to reach a broader audience. We want gardening to be accessible to everyone, and we're open to suggestions on how we can make that happen. Another participant, a young man named Eric, seemed excited about the idea. I love gardening and have done a bit in my own backyard. How can I help support this project? Robert smiled, impressed with Eric's enthusiasm. That's great, Eric. Your experience would be very valuable. We're looking for volunteers to help organize the events, as well as people willing to share their own gardening experiences. If you want to get involved, we can discuss how you can contribute. Jamal chimed in, speaking with enthusiasm. And if you have any ideas on how we can improve the workshops or reach more people, we'd love to hear them. The meeting continued with more discussions, suggestions, and collaborative planning. The community's response was positive and full of support. The idea of using gardening as a tool to promote well-being and strengthen the community resonated strongly with the attendees. By the end of the event, Robert and Jamal were exhausted but pleased with the success of the meeting. They gathered to assess how everything had gone. It was an absolute success, Robert said, smiling broadly. The turnout was excellent, and people were really interested. Jamal agreed, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. Yes, I was impressed with the interest and the suggestions we received. I think we're on the right track to make a big difference. Robert extended his hand for a firm handshake. You did an amazing job today, Jamal. And it wouldn't have been possible without your energy and dedication. Jamal returned the handshake with a smile. Thank you, Robert. Working with you has been an incredible experience, and I can't wait to see where this project will take us. As the sun set, casting a golden light over the garden, Robert and Jamal began to clean up and tidy the space. They talked about the next steps and how they would implement the suggestions and feedback received. The event was just the beginning, and the journey to turn their passion for gardening into a sustainable community project was only starting. With the support of the community and the strong friendship between Jamal and Robert, they were ready to face the challenges and reap the rewards of their efforts. As the day came to a close, both felt optimistic and inspired, eager to continue their mission of making a difference and enriching the lives of those around them. After the success of the launch event, Jamal and Robert were ready to move forward with the community project. The first series of workshops was scheduled for the following month, and both were busy with preparations. The excitement for the new initiative was growing, and the community was showing strong interest in participating. However, a new challenge arose when Robert received unexpected news. During a routine hospital visit, he was informed that his health condition had worsened. The news came as a shock, and Robert had to face the harsh reality that his physical limitations might impact his ability to actively participate in the events. Robert called Jamal to share the news. At the end of a long workday, Jamal answered the phone with a sense of anxiety. Hi, Robert. How are you? Jamal asked, trying to detect any sign of concern in Robert's voice. Hi, Jamal, Robert replied, his voice slightly tense. I need to talk to you about something important. I received some news from my doctor today. Jamal immediately sensed the seriousness in Robert's voice. Of course, what happened? Well, it looks like my condition has worsened a bit. I'll need more treatment and possibly some adjustments to my medication. This might affect my ability to participate in the events as much as I'd like, Robert explained, his voice heavy with concern. Jamal felt a lump in his throat, but tried to stay calm. I'm really sorry to hear that, Robert. It must be tough to get that news. How will this affect our project? I don't want this to derail the progress we've made, Robert replied. I know that gardening can be a powerful way to help people, and I still want to be a part of it, even if I can't be physically present at all the events. Jamal thought for a moment, trying to find a solution. We can adjust how we plan the workshops. Maybe you could focus more on the planning and coordination of the events, while I take on more of the practical side. Together, we can make sure the project keeps running smoothly. Robert seemed relieved by the suggestion. That could work. And if you need any help or advice, I'll be available to offer support. Also, I can continue to promote the project and help recruit volunteers. Jamal smiled, feeling more optimistic. Perfect. We can do this. Your experience and knowledge are crucial to the success of the project, and I'm here to make sure everything runs well. With the plan adjusted, Jamal and Robert continued to work on the project, adapting activities to the new situation. Robert focused his efforts on coordinating the workshops and handling administrative tasks, while Jamal took on the responsibility of leading the practical sessions and interacting directly with the participants. The first community gardening session took place the following weekend. Jamal was excited and a bit nervous, but he felt ready to lead the event. Robert stayed at home, monitoring the progress over the phone and ensuring everything was in order. At the start of the event, Jamal addressed the participants with an enthusiastic smile. Welcome to our first gardening workshop. I'm thrilled you're all here. Today, we're going to learn about basic gardening techniques and how gardening can be a form of relaxation and personal expression. The participants were engaged and eager to get started. Jamal demonstrated how to plant different types of seeds, explaining the steps and necessary care. During the activities, he received positive feedback from the participants, who were excited about the hands-on experience. At home, Robert followed the event over the phone, offering words of encouragement and help when needed. The constant communication between them ensured that the workshop was a success, and the team was working well despite the challenges. By the end of the event, Jamal called Robert to share the news. Robert, the workshop was a success, Jamal said excitedly. People were really involved and excited about what they learned. We got lots of compliments and suggestions for future events. Robert smiled at the good news. That's wonderful, Jamal. I'm so happy to hear that everything went well. And it's great to know that the community is responding positively. Yes, I'm happy too, Jamal agreed. And I just want you to know that it wouldn't have been possible without your support and guidance. The way you're helping to coordinate the project, even from a distance, is crucial. Thank you, Jamal. I'm grateful to have someone so dedicated and capable working alongside me, Robert replied, his voice full of gratitude. And even though I can't be there physically, I'm here to help in any way I can. Jamal ended the call with a sense of accomplishment. The first session was a success, and they had managed to overcome a significant challenge through collaboration and adaptation. The journey of the community project was just beginning, and with the strength of their friendship and determination, they were ready to tackle the next challenges. As the day drew to a close, Jamal and Robert reflected on the progress made and the challenges still ahead. Their friendship had become a constant source of strength and inspiration, and they were eager to continue making a difference in the lives of those around them. With the community project gaining traction and attracting attention in Atlanta, Jamal and Robert were adjusting to the new pace of their activities. Each month, the number of participants in the gardening workshops was growing, and stories of how gardening was positively impacting people's lives were beginning to spread. One Saturday afternoon, during one of the busier workshops, Jamal was helping a group of participants plant herb seeds. The sun was shining, and the atmosphere in the garden was filled with laughter and lively conversations. Robert was at home, staying in touch by phone and helping to coordinate the administrative aspects of the event. As Jamal demonstrated planting techniques, one of the participants, Mrs. Green, approached with a question. Jamal, I'm impressed with how gardening has helped me relax. Have you ever had a personal experience that changed your life through gardening? Mrs. Green asked, curious. Jamal smiled, recalling how gardening had become an important part of his life. Yes, actually, gardening was a way for me to escape and find peace during tough times. The connection with the earth and the process of seeing something grow from a seed is incredibly rewarding. The conversation was interrupted by a group of young participants eager to show off their new sprouts. "Look, Jamal, our seedlings are starting to come up," one of the kids exclaimed, eyes shining with excitement. "That's amazing," Jamal responded, bending down to look at the little plants. "You're doing a great job. Keep taking care of them, and you'll see them grow soon." At the end of the workshop, Jamal received a call from Robert. The conversation was an opportunity to discuss the next steps and reflect on the impact the project was making. "Hey, Robert. The workshop went great today," Jamal began as he prepared to clean up. "We received a lot of compliments, and more importantly, people are really getting involved." Robert, who was reviewing some reports, responded with an upbeat tone. "That's great to hear, Jamal. I'm seeing a lot of positive feedback and inspiring stories about how gardening is helping people find relaxation and a connection with nature." "Yeah, it's incredible to see how something so simple can make such a big difference in people's lives," Jamal agreed. "We got a message from a young participant saying that he now feels calmer and more focused thanks to gardening." "That's really touching," Robert commented, visibly moved. "It's rewarding to know that our project is helping people in ways we might not always foresee." As they talked, Robert mentioned a new challenge that had arisen. "We're starting to receive more requests for participation, and I think we might need more volunteers to help with the workshops. Can you start thinking about how we can recruit more people to support us?" "Sure, I can start working on that," Jamal replied. "I'll see if we can form a team of volunteers and maybe even think about ways to involve more schools and community groups." "That's a good idea," Robert said. "And if you need any help organizing that, let me know. We can use our networks to reach more people and make sure we keep having a positive impact." After the call, Jamal felt energized and motivated to tackle the new challenge. He began making calls and planning a special event to recruit and train new volunteers. A few days later, Jamal and Robert held a meeting with potential volunteers. The event took place at Robert's garden and had a good turnout, with people interested in contributing to the project. During the meeting, Jamal gave a presentation on the impact of gardening and the role of volunteers. "We're so excited to have you here," Jamal started, looking at the group of new volunteers. "Our goal is to expand the project and reach even more people in the community. With your help, we can make an even greater difference." One of the volunteers, a young woman named Lisa, raised her hand and asked, "How can we start helping, and what exactly will be required of us?" Jamal smiled, grateful for the question. "First, we'll need help with organizing the workshops, from preparing the space to assisting during the activities. Additionally, you can also help recruit more participants and promote the project in your own networks." Lisa nodded, showing her enthusiasm. "That sounds great. I'm excited to get started and help make a difference." With the recruitment of new volunteers underway, the community project was gaining momentum and becoming an integral part of Atlanta's community life. Gardening was proving not only to be a way to relieve stress, but also a means of strengthening community bonds and promoting well-being. As spring progressed and the garden blossomed, Jamal and Robert were pleased with the progress they had made. With each workshop, the positive impact of gardening became more evident, and the community was rallying around the project, creating a network of support and collaboration. Jamal and Robert's work was just beginning, and they were eager to tackle new challenges and continue making a difference in people's lives. With the support of their new volunteers and the strength of their friendship, they were ready to face whatever came next. The gardening project was thriving, and community participation was growing. Jamal and Robert were excited about the progress, but knew they needed to keep innovating and seeking new opportunities to expand their impact. That's when an unexpected chance arose. A major community event was being planned for the next month, and Robert thought it might be a great opportunity to promote the project. As Robert discussed the idea with Jamal, both were thrilled about the prospect of reaching an even larger audience. "Jamal, I think we've got an incredible opportunity here," Robert said on the phone, his tone full of enthusiasm. "The city is organizing a big community event next month. They're looking for exhibitors and activities to include, and I think it would be a fantastic chance to promote our project." Jamal, who was in the middle of a meeting with the new volunteers, smiled when he heard the news. That sounds like a fantastic opportunity, Robert. What's the main idea for the event? What do we need to do to participate? Robert explained, the event will take place at the city's Central Park and will feature a variety of attractions, like fairs, performances, and workshops. They're looking for exhibits that offer something interactive and educational. I think we could set up a booth with gardening activities and even do some live demonstrations. Jamal thought for a moment, excited about the possibility. That would be amazing. We could set up a booth with gardening demonstrations, give practical tips, and even run mini workshops during the event. We could also use the space to recruit new participants and volunteers. Exactly, Robert agreed. And if we can get some promotional materials and maybe even some samples of plants or seeds to distribute, that might draw more people to our booth. With the idea in place, Jamal and Robert began planning what would be needed for the event. They divided the tasks. Jamal would handle organizing the booth activities and logistics, while Robert would take care of the promotional materials and communication with the event team. In the following weeks, preparations for the community event intensified. Jamal and his volunteers worked hard to create an attractive and interactive booth. They prepared demonstrations on plant cultivation, gardening techniques, and the benefits of gardening for mental and physical health. Robert coordinated the printing of brochures, posters, and other promotional materials, and also helped prepare some seed samples and small gardening kits for distribution. The big day of the event arrived, and the Central Park was vibrant with activity. Colorful booths were spread throughout the space, and the atmosphere was filled with energy and enthusiasm. Jamal and the volunteers were at the booth, ready to welcome visitors and share their passion for gardening. Let's get started, Jamal said to the volunteers, adjusting the booth and making sure everything was in place. We're ready to make a big impact today. The gardening booth attracted many visitors, with people stopping to see the demonstrations and ask questions. Jamal was in the midst of the crowd, leading a small workshop on how to grow herbs at home. A young woman named Emily approached, clearly interested. I've always wanted to learn more about gardening but never knew where to start. Can you give me some tips? Jamal smiled, eager to help. Sure. Today we're showing how to start a small herb garden at home. It's a great way to begin, and you can do it even in a small space. We'll talk about the types of herbs that are easy to grow and how to take care of them. As Jamal spoke with Emily, a group of children was having fun with a hands-on activity, planting seeds in small pots. The volunteers were helping the kids prepare the pots and teaching them about plant growth. The atmosphere at the booth was lively, and Robert was keeping track of everything over the phone, receiving updates from Jamal and helping resolve any issues that arose. How's the booth going, Jamal? Robert asked, his voice upbeat. It's going great, Jamal replied while assisting a visitor with a question. We're getting a lot of interested people, and the activities are a hit. The kids are loving it. Robert smiled upon hearing the news. That's fantastic to hear. Keep it up. Remember to take some photos so we can use them to promote the project in the future. Definitely, Jamal responded. I'll make sure we get some great photos to show the success of the event. During the event, the gardening booth became one of the highlights, with many visitors expressing interest in future workshops and getting involved with the community project. The exposure helped increase the project's visibility and recruit new participants and volunteers. By the end of the day, Jamal was exhausted but pleased with the event's success. He caught up with Robert over the phone to share the good news. Robert, the event was a huge success, Jamal said, tired but happy. The booth was busy the entire time, and we managed to recruit several new participants and volunteers. It was amazing to see the interest and enthusiasm from everyone. That's wonderful, Robert responded, clearly excited. I'm so glad to hear that. And I really appreciate all the hard work you and the volunteers put into the event. This success is a huge step for our project. Thank you, Robert. We couldn't have done it without your support and coordination, Jamal replied, feeling grateful. We're making great progress, and I can't wait to see what comes next. With the community event wrapped up and a new group of participants and volunteers joining the project, Jamal and Robert felt more confident than ever. The journey was filled with challenges, but also achievements and opportunities to make a difference. As the sun set over the Central Park, casting golden and orange hues across the sky, Jamal and Robert reflected on the positive impact they were making and the exciting journey still ahead. Their passion for gardening and commitment to the community continued to guide them, and they were ready to face the future with optimism and determination. Following the success of the community event, Jamal and Robert's gardening project was growing in full swing. However, with the expansion of activities and the increase in participants and volunteers, new challenges began to emerge, particularly related to finances. The project's budget was becoming tight, and a solution was needed to ensure the continuation of activities. One afternoon, while Jamal was organizing materials for the next workshop, Robert called to discuss the financial issues that were arising. "Hey, Jamal," Robert began, his voice sounding concerned. "We need to talk about the project's budget. Costs are rising faster than expected, and we're starting to face a deficit." Jamal, who was reviewing the project's finances, sighed. "I've been thinking the same thing. With the increase in events and activities, the costs for materials and garden maintenance are going up. We need to find a way to cover these expenses." "Exactly," Robert agreed. "I've looked into a few options, and I think we have some possibilities, like applying for grants or seeking sponsorships. We could also consider running a fundraising campaign." Jamal thought for a moment and then suggested, "I think a fundraising campaign could be a good idea. We could organize a special event for the community and ask for contributions to help keep the project going." Robert seemed relieved by the proposal. "That's an excellent idea. We could do something fun, like a community gardening day with a small participation fee, and also sell some of the plants and products we've grown. What do you think?" "That sounds great," Jamal replied, starting to get excited about the prospect. "We could combine that with a small food and crafts fair featuring items made by volunteers. That might attract more people and generate more revenue." With the idea in place, Jamal and Robert began working on organizing the fundraising campaign. They decided to hold the event on a Saturday afternoon at the same Central Park where they had participated in the community event. In the weeks that followed, the team dedicated themselves to preparing for the event. Jamal and his volunteers arranged a series of activities, including gardening workshops, a plant and product fair, and even a gardening contest for kids. Robert handled the financial aspects and managed to secure some local sponsors to support the event. Finally, the day of the event arrived, and the park was once again bustling with activity. The gardening booth was set up with extra care, including information about the project and details on how contributions would help sustain the activities. Jamal was on site early, organizing the final details and prepping the team for the event start. Robert, who couldn't attend in person due to his medical treatment, was keeping track of the preparations over the phone. "Hi, Robert," Jamal said, answering the phone. "We're almost ready to start. Everything is in place, and the team is excited." "That's great to hear," Robert responded, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "Remember to keep the focus on fundraising and make sure everyone knows how their support will help the project." "Will do," Jamal replied. "We'll do our best to make the event a success and hit our fundraising goals." As the event kicked off, people began arriving, participating in the gardening workshops, exploring the booths with products and plants, and enjoying the food offered. The booth was busy, with visitors asking questions about gardening and learning about different plants and techniques. A visitor, a gentleman named Mr. Johnson, stopped to chat with Jamal. "I'm impressed with everything you're doing here. I'm an amateur gardener myself and love seeing projects like this. How can I contribute?" Jamal smiled, grateful for the generosity. "We really appreciate your interest. We have a donation box here at the booth, and any contribution is welcome. We're also selling some of the plants we've grown and products made by our volunteers, and all the proceeds go to supporting the project." Mr. Johnson looked at the displayed plants and products. "Great. I'll buy a few of these plants and leave a contribution too." As the event progressed, the team managed to raise a significant amount of money. Visitors were engaging, participating in activities, and making generous donations. Jamal and his volunteers were busy but satisfied with the progress. At the end of the event, Jamal called Robert to share the good news. "Robert, the event was a success," Jamal said, exhausted but excited. "We raised a good amount of money, and everyone was really involved and excited about the activities. Sales and donations were great." "That's wonderful," Robert responded, clearly relieved and pleased. "I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you for all your hard work in making the event happen. With this money, we'll be able to continue our workshops and expand the project even further." Jamal smiled, feeling accomplished. Absolutely. And beyond the finances, the event also helped raise awareness about the project and engage the community even more. As the sun began to set over the park, Jamal and his team started cleaning up and organizing the space. The event had been a major success, and they were looking forward to continuing the work they were doing. With the necessary funds secured and community support strengthened, Jamal and Robert were ready to tackle the next challenges and keep expanding the positive impact of the gardening project. The journey was ever-evolving, and their determination to make a difference in people's lives continued to guide them every step of the way. With the gardening project well established and a steady stream of activities and participants, Jamal and Robert were ready to explore new ways to integrate the project into the community's daily life. One of their new goals was to connect different generations through gardening, creating opportunities for young and older people to interact and learn from each other. The idea came up during a planning meeting when Jamal suggested an activity that could bring the community together in a meaningful way. "Robert, I've been thinking about how we can broaden our impact on the community," Jamal started as they reviewed plans for upcoming events. "How about organizing an intergenerational gardening program? We could create a space where young people and seniors can work together and share experiences." Robert, who had been going over some financial reports, looked up with interest. "That's a fantastic idea. Connecting different generations could bring a new perspective to the project and strengthen community bonds. We could create a program where each group learns something from the other." "Exactly," Jamal agreed. "We could start with a pilot program involving some local schools and senior centers to see how it works. Gardening could be a great way to promote positive interactions and mutual learning." After deciding on the idea, Jamal and Robert began organizing the program. They reached out to local schools and senior centers, explaining the concept and inviting them to participate. The response was positive, and the program was scheduled for the following month. On the day of the program's launch, the park was bustling with activity. The space was decorated with tables and benches for the participants, and the volunteers were ready to welcome the groups. Jamal was particularly excited, knowing that the program had the potential to create memorable experiences for everyone involved. As the groups started arriving, the enthusiasm was palpable. Among the participants were local school children with their teachers and a group of seniors from the community center. Jamal approached to welcome everyone. "Welcome to our intergenerational gardening program," Jamal announced with a warm smile. "We're thrilled to have you all here. Today, we're going to work together on some gardening activities and learn from each other." One of the seniors, Mrs. Wilson, smiled and addressed a group of curious children. "Hi, kids. I'm Mrs. Wilson. I'm excited to work with you today. Do you like gardening?" One of the children, named Lily, nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, I love planting flowers. And you, Mrs. Wilson, have you grown a lot of things?" "Here's a secret," Mrs. Wilson replied, winking at Lily. "I've grown many things over the years. I'd love to share some tips and tricks I've learned along the way." Meanwhile, Jamal turned to a group of young volunteers who were helping set up the activities. "Let's start with a simple task. We'll plant some herbs and flowers, and each group will work together in a small section of the garden." The groups began working, and the interaction between generations started flowing naturally. The children were eager to learn from the seniors, who were delighted by the energy and curiosity of the young people. As they worked together, participants began sharing stories and experiences. Lily asked Mrs. Wilson about the plants she used to grow when she was younger, and Mrs. Wilson talked about her garden at the family farm. "I used to have a huge garden with all my favorite flowers," Mrs. Wilson recounted. "I remember spending hours taking care of the plants and watching them grow. It's one of my best memories." Lily looked at Mrs. Wilson with admiration. "That's amazing. I hope I can have a garden as beautiful one day." Jamal watched with satisfaction as the groups connected and learned together. He realized the program was fulfilling its goal of promoting interaction and understanding between different generations. At the end of the day, the participants gathered for a small closing event where they shared what they had learned and enjoyed some food and drinks prepared by the volunteers. Robert, who had been following the progress over the phone, called Jamal to hear about how the program had gone. "Robert, the program was a success?" Jamal said, excited. It was amazing to see the interaction between the kids and the seniors. Everyone was having fun and learning from each other. That's wonderful to hear, Robert responded with satisfaction. I'm so glad the program is working out. I really think this can make a difference in our community. Jamal agreed. Absolutely. And the best part is that everyone felt connected and valued. It only strengthens the impact our project is having. With the intergenerational gardening program successfully completed, Jamal and Robert were excited about future opportunities to expand the initiative. The interaction between different generations had proven to be a powerful way to build bonds and promote a more cohesive community. As the sun set over the park and the last people began to disperse, Jamal and Robert reflected on the positive impact they were creating and were eager to explore new paths and challenges that might arise on the horizon. The gardening project was becoming a transformative force in the community, and their passion continued to guide them every step of the way. With the success of the programs and events, the gardening project was becoming an essential part of community life in Atlanta. Jamal and Robert had much to celebrate but knew it was time to think about the future and ensure that the project continued to thrive, even when they were not directly involved. To this end, they decided to establish a long-term sustainability plan and create a lasting legacy. One morning, as they reviewed reports and future plans, Jamal and Robert met to discuss the next steps. Robert, we've done an amazing job so far, Jamal began, looking at the project's growth and feedback chart. But now is the time to think about how we can ensure the project continues to thrive in the future. We need to create a sustainability plan. Robert, who was reviewing some sponsor proposals, agreed. Yes, I agree. We need to think of ways to make sure the project doesn't rely solely on our direct involvement. We could consider forming a leadership committee and developing a donation fund to ensure continuity. Jamal smiled, impressed with Robert's vision. That sounds like an excellent plan. We can start by forming a committee with some of the most dedicated volunteers and community members who have shown interest in getting more involved. Additionally, a donation fund could help cover operational costs and ensure the project continues to grow. Robert, with a determined expression, responded, I'll start working on structuring the donation fund and also seek partnerships with local businesses. Meanwhile, you can begin organizing the committee meetings and setting goals to ensure everyone is aligned with the long-term vision. The two friends devoted themselves to planning, and within a few months, they had established a leadership committee made up of dedicated volunteers and community leaders. They had also created a donation fund that was beginning to attract contributions from local supporters. In one of the first committee meetings, Jamal and Robert presented their plans for the future. We're thrilled to have all of you here, Jamal began, looking around at the engaged crowd. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss how we can ensure the gardening project's continuity and expand our impact on the community. One of the committee members, Mrs. Reynolds, an active volunteer, raised her hand and asked, how can we involve more people and ensure the project continues to grow? Robert responded enthusiastically, one of our key strategies is to increase the project's visibility and establish partnerships with local businesses and organizations. We're also planning regular community events to maintain engagement and attract new participants. Jamal added, additionally, we want to ensure the project has a strong online presence. With a good social media strategy and a well-maintained website, we can reach more people and facilitate donations and support. The committee discussed various ideas and began to formulate a plan to implement the proposed strategies. Each member contributed their own experiences and suggestions, enriching the planning and ensuring the project had a solid future. A few weeks later, the project gained significant momentum with a new partnership with a local company that committed to sponsoring some events and helping to promote the project. The donation fund was growing, and the committee was excited about the new opportunities. One afternoon, during a community event in the park, Jamal and Robert were talking about recent progress and reflecting on the journey they had taken. Robert, look at what we've accomplished, Jamal said, watching the park filled with people participating in activities. It's incredible to see how the project has grown and how engaged the community is. I feel like we're creating something that will continue to benefit many people. Robert smiled, visibly moved. Yes, it's true. And the best part is that we're building a solid foundation for the future. The committee and the donation fund will ensure the project continues to thrive, even when we're not here every day. I agree, Jamal said, with a satisfied smile. And I know the legacy we're creating will inspire others to get involved and continue the work we've started. As the sun set over the park, casting a golden light across the scene, Jamal and Robert felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The gardening project had not only impacted people's lives in the community, but was also establishing itself as a lasting force for good. With the leadership committee up and running, the donation fund growing, and continued community support, Jamal and Robert were confident that the project would continue to flourish and make a positive impact for many years to come. Jamal and Robert's journey had been marked by challenges and achievements, but what stood out most was the lasting impact they had created. The gardening project was now well-positioned to continue transforming lives, connecting people, and strengthening the community. As the park emptied and the lights dimmed, Jamal and Robert prepared for the next chapter of their lives, knowing they had left a significant legacy and that the gardening project would continue to grow and thrive, carrying forward the passion and commitment they had put into every step of the way.